Good morning, participant. Welcome to e-course on plant tissue culture. Today we are going to discuss in the next session glassware washing and sterilization techniques. So we'll first see what we are going to discuss today. We are going to discuss on washing area of tissue culture laboratory. Whatever how we are going to do that. Second is glassware and plasticware washing, because you do use different types of glasswares and as well as plasticware, thermolabile and temperature resistant plasticware as well. So we are going to see how we are going to wash and keep that clean and use it for plant tissue practices. The third one is we are going to discuss types of sterilization technique used in plant tissue culture laboratory. Now these sterilization techniques are of various types, so that we will discuss soon. Now let us go to washing area of tissue culture laboratory. Now washing area is an important place in any lab, especially where you require a lot of things to be reutilized again and again. Therefore, it's a use start even before you actual experiment, continue or begin with that experiment. So before you plan anything or before you even set up to develop to start preparing your stocks or start working on your protocol, I think the first thing you should do is wash your glassware or figure it out the washing area of your tissue culture laboratory. And therefore, if once you've confirmed the washing area, it requires certain conditions, and these conditions are absolutely available in many parts of our country. It is not that expensive and not it is easily available. Now, this particular area in any laboratory is basically required for cleaning and washing of glassware and other items. Therefore, maintenance of cleanliness is important. As I already told in my previous session, that keeping a lab clean, keeping various parts and components of plant tissue culture lab clean is a essential component of success of plant tissue culture. Therefore, if you keep the more clean lab, you have better chances of developing successful plant tissue culture lab. Now this washing area should be consist of a sink as well as proper draining board. So that particular wash basin should be having a proper sink. It should wash off the whatever the water which is going to available over there. That should have a proper draining board. So generally, if you have a stainless steel sink, that would be better, or any other one. But I think stainless steel would be better because you can clean that sink, in a reasonably well. Now that area should also have a specific place to dry the washed glassware and storage cabinet to store the clean and dried culture vessels. So you should able to even dry that immediately, and once you dry that, you are going to keep that dried glass vessels in a dust-free cabinets or in dust-free boxes, paper boxes. Now let's discuss about glassware and plasticware washing. Now glassware, which is we are going to use in media preparation, in also in storage, because we are going to prepare a lot of different types of stocks, media stocks, and these media stocks you have to keep it in a 100 ml, 250 ml liter flask, or in a 500 ml liter flask, or sometimes even in a 1 liter conical flask. The volume will vary, but you have to store them. So it is better to use glasswares for that. Then for setting up the experiment, for example, micropropagation, for direct organogenesis, for any type of regeneration, to set up that experiment, you require glasswares. Okay. Therefore, to prevent the contamination in these growing cultures, glasswares used in this tissue culture lab should be restricted to such experiments only. So here it is a bit tricky. I mean, you can keep these cultures, glass vessels separately for plant tissue culture laboratory, but if at all you want to use it for any other purpose, you have to make sure that these glasswares are again very critically washed and use it back in tissue culture lab. So you can share some glasswares for biochemistry or phytochemistry or for any other type of a work, but it is, as I said, if your glassware is crystal clear and clean, then you can reuse it for multiple purposes. But generally it is said that you should use to avoid contaminations, to avoid unnecessary say mixing of different chemicals, it is better to have a glassware separately for plant tissue culture laboratory. The next one is these glassware should be washed thoroughly with a good laboratory detergent and rinse with the tap water several times after the use. So that is something very important, that this glassware should be washed with the good laboratory detergent. Now, many times in some labs you use any kind of detergent powder. Now, try avoiding this detergent powder. Instead, you should use a liquid detergent, because liquid detergent they do not leave any kind of marks on your glassware. Whereas if you use a solid detergent powder, then that is going to leave a marks when you are going to wash it or when you are going to dry it. So, and again, after washing or after scrubbing these glasswares with the laboratory detergent, it is always good to wash it several times with the normal tap water. Now, if you have a RO water or milky water or say any other water after the tap water, you can use that water to even rinse it once. But in many cases, it is not required that much. And these glassware, generally, you should use it, which is made up of either Pyrex or borosilicate glass material, which is plentifully available everywhere available in our country. Now they are resistant to heat. They are also not less prone to breakage. They are reasonably good quality. So that kind of a quality glass wares should be used for a plant tissue culture laboratory. Now let's discuss washing of glassware. See, immediate cleaning of reusable glassware should be used in plant tissue culture lab. So there should be, because we are going to use that glassware again and again for subculture, for rooting, for initiation of culture, and therefore it is always good to clean the glasswares once it has been utilized for subculturing, or if at all you get contamination, you should immediately autoclave that particular contaminants, because you want to kill that particular fungi and bacteria, and then throw that material in a dustbin as well as in your dust bin. But basically you should clean that particular glassware immediately. Do not allow media or agar to dry inside the glassware. Now this is something very important, that what happen many time when you work with the students, and students if they go for some kind of a long vacation, maybe in Diwali or any other one, if at all they do subculture, they are going to leave that particular glassware with the media, and that media shrink down and stick to the glassware, and it is sometimes so notoriously difficult to remove that particular dried agar from the glassware, and then it's difficult to use those glasswares again for other purposes. So conventional method of cleaning that glassware is to soak it for 4 hours in a sodium dichromate solution along with the sulfuric acid. Now this is a method which is exclusively used if you are using a new glassware which is just manufactured or transported into your college or institution, because that glassware is manufactured and it is sent, so it is not washed with any kind of a acid. So acid washing is sometimes good for the glassware which is new one, or which is very old glassware which is there in your department. It is why? Because with the sulfuric acid, because sulfuric acid removes all types of say marks or stains which are present inside the glassware, and therefore this method is definitely good if you are washing or using that glassware for the first time. But let's say if you don't have the sodium dichromate and sulfuric acid, in that case you should soak that glassware in mild detergent solution, okay, for almost 16 to 24 hours. So just keep it overnight, and make sure that all the stains are basically came out in your solution, and wash that particular glassware with the tap water. Now when you're doing this washing and scrubbing these glasswares, make sure that you have a very good quality scrubbers or brush, different types of cleaning brush which are called as a bottle brush. Now these different types of bottle brush or glassware washing brush, they are of nylon made, and at the end of that particular brushes there is a small iron rod, and that iron rod or that iron material need to be covered with some kind of a muslin cloth or with some kind of a cotton, because whenever you are going to scrub any of these glassware, especially the test tubes, with the scrubber or with this particular type of a brush, if that material is open, you are going to break the test tubes, and therefore in order not to have a lot of breakage of your glassware, it is absolutely important to have a good quality brush. Along with the tip of the brush should have some kind of a muslin cloth or cotton, so that whenever you brush it, it should not hit so hard that the glassware will end up breaking it. So make use your common sense here when you do glassware washing. If the rims of the glass of any test tube is broken, you have to be careful not to be really get excited, because sometimes in cleaning, people do it so aggressively that they might have cuts on their hands, and you don't want to get injured when you are doing glassware washing. So be careful with the glassware washing. Use your common sense. If it is a broken, not to use it, or even if you want to wash any broken glassware, wash it carefully. Now, also the glassware which are used in culturing the microorganism. Let's say sometimes you do certain molecular biology practicals along with the tissue culture labs, like growing E. coli, or sometimes for, let's say, you want to run a genetic transformation of a plant species. That time you will use Agrobacterium tumefaciens, that is a bacteria. So if you at all you are handling any kind of a bacteria cultures in the same plant tissue culture lab, you should keep those cultures separately. And after doing that, that glassware which you have just used it for subculturing the bacteria, you should be able to decontaminate quickly and autoclave it. First you autoclave it and then remove it and wash it immediately. Now, all the labels and markings which are generally present on our subcultured glass vessels, because once you put the glass nutrient media into the glass vessel, autoclave it, then inoculate it, and after inoculation, we incubate these glass vessels in a tissue culture labs. So in that case, you write lots of details on that particular test tube as well as on that particular conical flask or magenta vessels about the date of inoculation, what type of species. Sometimes we put initials or media formulation in short form. So all those labels and markings should be removed when you do after subculturing. When you rewash that glass vessel, you should remove it. Then this glass vessel should be soaked in a 5% of detergent solution. You can use even a less concentrated detergent solution for minimum 1 hour or 2 overnight. Anything of this is fine. Either you can soak it for 1 hour, or you can soak it overnight in a detergent solution, and next day you wash it. But if you keep it for a longer time other than one day, if you keep it more than 24 hours, then the same solution will grab certain amount of bacterial growth, and therefore your entire bucket, which is full of glassware, will start stinking. So not to delay that much, you can keep it overnight and next day you can wash it. Now the person which is cleaning this glassware should wear acid resistant apron and gloves. Now this is only when you are washing the glassware with the sodium dichromate and sulfuric acid. But let's say you are doing normal washing, then you can have an apron, just not to get your clothes wet with the water or with the soap. So have a normal apron and you can wash it. If at all, if you are handling any kind of acid material, then you should use a gloves. Otherwise, let's say if you think your hands will have some allergy because of washing the glassware for a very long time, then you can use some nylon gloves or something like that. Okay. Now, which are the agars which is remain in a culture? This is generally happen when you do subculturing or rooting, when you transform rooting plant to a hardening plant, or when you do subculturing of those adventitious shoots on the new media. There is a lot of agar which is left over in your culture after you remove the callus, or after you remove these cultures and subculture on new media. There is some agar which is going to left. So that agar need to be discarded. Now this you can simply melt it and discard, or you simply put it in an autoclave for just for fun 5 minutes or lesser than that. That will boil the agar and it will melt it. So once it is melted, you pour that agar into some kind of a normal beaker and wash that glassware immediately with a detergent solution, and store those glasswares in a dust-free cabinets or boxes. This is fine. Now let's go to the types of sterilization techniques which are used in plant tissue culture laboratory. Now we do sterilization of nutrient media and the glassware and the plasticware which is associated with it. For example, we use a test tubes which we use conical flask or magenta bottles. After preparation of say agar based media, we pour that agar into those magenta bottles or those magenta boxes or tissue culture test tubes or conical flasks. So obviously after pouring that, we autoclave or we sterilize that media. If you don't sterilize that media, you will have a contamination of bacteria or other fungal material as well. Similarly, we also do sterilization of explant. These are the two major steps of plant tissue culture. Now sterilization of explant I will discuss in my next lecture, but first we will discuss how we are going to sterilize this media, what are the different types of sterilization techniques which are used in plant tissue culture laboratory. So these are grouped into three different types: weight or steam sterilization, that is the first type. Second type is a dry sterilization, and the third type is which is basically used for tools which we use during inoculation in a laminar hood. That is where we use this glass bead sterilization. Now this glass bead sterilizer is not that expensive, but it is a new technique which is now very well established in plant tissue culture laboratories. But if you don't have this glass bead sterilizer, what else do you can use? You can use basically a Bunsen burner or any kind of a lamp. For example, you can use a LPG gas, and you can have a tube which is connected to that LPG gas and a burner which will support that LPG gas cylinder, and you can use that flame for sterilizing your stainless steel tools, which are mainly the forceps, surgical blade holder, once you fix the blade to a blade holder. So these are the two major stainless steel tools or metallic instruments which generally need to be flame sterilized. So that's why we use here to a glass bead sterilization, you can use a flame sterilization also. Now to flame this, either you use a LPG gas cylinder, or if you don't have a LPG gas cylinder, you can use a rectified spirit or normal ethanol, a typical Bunsen burner which is filled with the ethanol solution or rectified spirit. Now in places like where for example, there are many districts which we call as a dry districts where ethanol is generally prohibited to use it. In that case, the ethanol becomes expensive and it is not easily available. Now in that case, glass bead sterilization is definitely a good alternative. Or if you can just purchase the LPG gas cylinder, then the flame sterilization can also be a workable method for the sterilization of metallic tools. The fourth one is a filter sterilization, and filter sterilization is basically where some of your media, some of the components of the media which are thermolabile, they are not temperature, they are temperature sensitive. So in that case, we will use filter sterilization. So we'll go one by one in depth. So let us first go to the weight or steam sterilization. Now autoclave is obviously one of the best seal device, which just acts like a pressure cooker that can kill the microorganism under saturated steam under pressure. And therefore autoclaving is a method of weight or steam sterilization. Again I'll repeat, autoclaving is a method of weight or steam sterilization, and that happens with the help of water vapor which is under high pressure. Now what we can do, what kind of components we can autoclave? First one is cotton plugs, glasswares, conical flasks, test tube, beakers, measuring cylinders, magenta bottles. The cap should be, which is a plastic, should be temperature resistant plastic. Okay, I'll talk about that plasticware as well. So pipette tips, which is again a plasticware, water, nutrient media, this all can be sterilized with the help of autoclaving. Now plasticwares, which are generally made up of polypyrene, polyelomer, Tefzel, Teflon FEP. These specialized polymers where that particular plastic is made up of, that plastic is really hard, and that hard plastic can be of these particular branded polymers can be repeatedly autoclaved. Otherwise, if you use a plastic bag or a simple bag which is available in our general grocery market, if you try to autoclave that particular bag for some use, it is going to melt it very quickly. So don't use any plastic which is available in a grocery shop, which is not made up, if it is not made up of polypyrene, polyalumer, Tefzel and Teflon, then that is not good for weight or steam sterilization. In fact, it's not good for any kind of a high temperature stress. And therefore, even the bottles which are available in the market, the water bottles which we use it for drinking, cold water during summertime, those bottles are also not autoclavable. So please make sure that the tips which we use it for pipettes, the plasticware, for example, if you have a magenta bottle, there will be a cap which is of magenta color, and that cap instead of it is used instead of cotton plugs, that particular cap has to be of polypyrene, polyalumer, Tefzel and Teflon FEP. So these high quality plastic should be can be repeatedly autoclaved. Now, other than that, you also require smaller metallic instruments. They are tools basically, which are forceps, blade holder, blade. Then sometimes you can use arrowhead or spatula. All these kind of material which is required during inoculation of the explant, if at all you require. Then you have to you can autoclave it, but if you do repeated autoclaving and if you don't clean them, then they're going to get rusted, and they are going to sometimes even get blunt because of steam sterilization. Especially the surgical blade, if you repeatedly use it and do not keep it clean, then it is going to get blunt. So, but the surgical blades are they are cheap and they are plentifully available in the market. So even if you get it blunt, you just simply scrap it and use a new one. But those metallic blade holders you can reutilize again and again. If you keep a sandpaper in your lab, sandpaper is the paper which is basically used to scrub the walls when they do painting. That sandpaper is really good if at all you get a rust on your forceps or blade holder. You just scrub it and that rust will go off, and you can again autoclave this. But generally these metallic instrument can be sterilized with a dry sterilization as well. So there are both the weight as well as dry sterilization, they work with these tools. Okay, if you keep them clean and rust free, they can be wet sterilized as well. So these are the different types of devices, basically autoclave. There are different types of autoclave: pressure cooker type, vertical type, common laboratory autoclave, hospital type autoclave, or horizontal autoclave. I have already told and discussed about these different types of autoclave in my previous session, that pressure cooker and vertical autoclave, these are the two one which can be used in a lab which is just beginning to develop tissue culture lab. If you have establish a commercial tissue culture lab or a protocol, then I think you should go for a large size autoclave, because they will have a autoclaving of higher material. Okay, let us go to the next topic, dry sterilization. Dry sterilization is generally done for metallic instruments, as I already told you, that if you have any kind of a say forceps, blade holder, or other than that, if you have any kind of small metallic tools which you need to use for surface sterilization or for inoculation, you need to be sterilizing with the hot dry air. Glasswares, after washing, you can sterilize it with hot dry air at 120 to 140 degrees Celsius. You can keep a little lower than that, 100 degrees Celsius is still also fine, for 2 to 4 hours, and that will give you a dry sterilization. And for that, I have already showed this kind of ovens in my last lecture, that hot dry ovens are most commonly used equipment for sterilization, dry sterilization. So this is a typical oven, a hot air oven, which is available in most of the labs, and it is not that expensive equipment, which is anybody can purchase it. at least the college and the institution should able to purchase this kind of a oven. And this is good for it is a multi-purpose equipment, so it is used for plant tissue culture as well as it can be used for many other purposes. Now the next one is glass bead sterilization, and glass bead sterilization is a technique which has a glass bead sterilizer. It is an equipment and which is basically used to sterilize metallic instruments like forceps, blade holder, arrowhead, smaller forceps, spatulas, and any kind of a syringe, scissors if you have, then you can use those. So all metallic tools you can, such as blade holder, surgical blade, forceps, arrowhead, they are best sterilized using glass bead sterilizer, and they are also called as steripods. Okay, and these steripods or the sterilizer basically heat the material approximately at 250 to 300 degrees Celsius. It is extensively hot. It is supremely hot. Do not touch that particular thing, and obviously it will destroy all types of bacteria and fungal spores which are, if at all, they are present on surgical blade, forceps or arrowhead while during the excision of the explant. Then they can be easily killed, and you will have a say fungal free or microorganism free tools. Now because it could happen that through your metallic tools also contamination can be easily spread, and that has happened many times when you start or when you begin in a tissue culture lab. Care should be taken to place these tools for a few minutes on a petri plate in a laminar hood during inoculation, because if they are supremely hot and if you use it immediately for excision of explant or for inoculation of that particular explant, that explant will have a very high temperature excision, and that will kill those cells which are surrounded by that excised portion. And therefore sometimes if these hot tools are not, if they haven't kept cool or they are not at room temperature, they are going to obviously desiccate or disturb your explant severely. So this is a glass bead sterilizer, and you can, after heating it for 250 to 300 just for a half a minute, it is more than enough, and you can simply keep it on a petri plate for 2-3 minutes. That temperature will go down below 100 degrees Celsius. It will reach to less than 40 degrees Celsius in 3-4 minutes, because there is a air which is blowing continuously in a laminar hood. And after doing that, you can use these sterilized metallic tools for excision of explant and inoculation of explant. The next one is a filter sterilization. In filter sterilization, as I told you, filter sterilization is a technique which is used for those components of the nutrient media which are thermolabile. For example, proteins, amino acids, some plant extract, few hormones. Not all the hormones are thermolabile, but few hormones are definitely temperature sensitive. So those few hormones, those are thermolabile, and they can decompose during autoclaving. So this is, if they get decomposed, then they are not going to get utilized by the explant, and therefore one has to make sure that these particular component has to be filter sterilized. Now there are branded filters which are available with millipore as well as Nalgene filters are available, and this can be used in these cases. Now the porosity or the membrane of this filter is smaller than 0.2 micron. So the membrane size is lesser than 0.2 micron, and therefore that size filters are enough for separating the fungal spores, the bacterial spores, the bacterial cells to get rid from your nutrient media. So you pass your nutrient media or that particular hormone from the filter, and whatever the filtrate you will have, that will be filter sterilized nutrient or filter sterilized hormone. So obviously you need a empty glassware to hold the media which is after sterilization, because while sterilizing on the other side, because of gravity, you will have the filtrate which is coming into the on the downward side, which is going to come into a glass vessel. Now that glassware or glass vessel should be autoclaved or it has to be autoclaved before filter sterilization. So the equipment or the glassware, whatever you need during filter sterilization, or even these Nalgene filters and their cabins and their entire assembly has to be autoclaved. Okay, you don't have to autoclave the filters, but the assembly has to be autoclaved. In this filter sterilization, all the particles, bacterial spores, fungal spores, they all get removed. And for larger volume, especially if you are using 50 ml, then with the gravity, the entire solution will get easily filtered. But if you have say 100 ml or say 1000 ml of media, then in that case you should probably use vacuum, otherwise it will take a really long time. So with this filter sterilization assembly, you can have a vacuum pump, and these vacuum pump are plentifully available in the market, and whatever the pressure you need, that pressure vacuum pumps are easily available with various vendors, and they can provide you along with this assembly as well. So thermolabile components of the media, they need to be first filter sterilized. So the thermolabile component of pure nutrient media has to first filter sterilize. Similarly, the heat stable component, the rest of the components which need to be autoclaved with the media, because all that is a temperature resistant, they can tolerate that heat, that need to be autoclaved. And at the end, when you want to add that particular plant growth regulator in your media, you have to have an empty glass vessel and empty test tubes and say empty conical flask, which all should be autoclaved before you mix it. So you can mix these autoclaved media along with your filter sterilized plant growth regulator, and after doing this you mix it well, and then you can pour into those test tubes as well as into those conical flasks which are already autoclaved. So your entire structure is sterilized, and therefore your thermolabile component is still safe, it is still active in the media, as well as the rest of the component is also sterilized. So this is the advantage of filter sterilization, that the component which is thermolabile will still get sterilized, as well as the rest of the component which doesn't require filter sterilization, where you can do autoclaving, you can mix them and have the media which has that particular plant growth regulator or plant extract. So this is a great advantage of filter sterilization activity. And this is assembly of Nalgene or Millipore technology. These are the companies which provide this kind of a filtration assembly, and you can see that they are of different sizes, the smaller size, intermediate size and large size. So these large size are generally used for volume like 500 milliliter or 1000 ml. This smaller volume can be used for 100 ml of 100 ml of solutions. So here this assembly, this both are plastic material, as I told you, those are the temperature resistant plastic. Then here you have given a notch. This notch is basically for putting a vacuum pipe over there. So once you put on the vacuum pump, it will suck the air, and there will be a pressure which is built up at this place, and there whatever the solution which is on the top of this filtration assembly will get quickly filtered, and you will have that filtrate in this lower assembly of the filtration system. And you can see that there is this plastic structure with this is the basically a filter assembly. These are the filters. The filters paper can be stored here, and you can fix it over here. This is the ring which basically stick both this assembly, the upper assembly and the lower assembly, and fix it, confirm it. And once you have this assembly well tight with the air, these are some of the knobs which keep the airtight. This ring is also where you can keep this entire structure heavily closed, and once you put the pressure on this side, you will have the solution in this filtrate. Now in this filtrate, you open inside the laminar hood, and you can pour into a autoclaved media, and that media will have thermolabile component which is still active, functional, and that will give you a very promising result in your plant tissue culture media. Now this is a entire assembly of filter sterilization technique. As you can see that this is a millipore structure. This is again a clamp where the assembly is. So if this conical flask is autoclaved, there is a knob on this side. This knob has this tubing which reaches to this one. There will be a pressure which is sucked by this. If you put a filter over here, whatever the solutions which you are pouring from there will get into this particular gasket. So this is how you will have the solution in this gasket as well. And then this, if both these are autoclave, you can take the, and you can keep this entire structure inside the laminar hood if you have a little larger laminar hood. If you can clean this with a little bit of soap or a little bit of from outside, and autoclave all this material except the tubing, and you can have a filter sterilization solution inside this assembly which you can pour into autoclave media, and that should give you a nutrient media, a sterilized nutrient media with the thermolabile component like plant growth hormones or plant extract. So these are the different sterilization techniques which are used in plant tissue culture technology. So with that, if you have any questions, please drop those questions into chat as well as on the channel, or the coordinators. You can write to them and I will answer those questions in my next live session. Thank you.